I bought this 1971 Rover P6 specifically to teach myself how to work on classic cars. Let me just tell you that I came this close to fully regretting that decision. You see, this old girl has been sitting for 30 years, and that does some really, really bad things to a car. For starters, she's got ginormous great rust holes in the doors. There's rust basically everywhere on this car. The interior is fully disintegrating. There appears to be half a straw bale in the engine bay where this car was stored in a barn. But the worst bit about this car, and I did not know this before I bought her, she had a seized engine. And I'm not talking about just a little bit seized either. I'm talking about really quite seized. No matter what kind of crazy concoctions I poured down into the cylinders, no matter how hard I hit it with a hammer, no matter how much I lent on the crank bolt with a massive great breaker bar, no matter how much fire I threw at her, there was simply no unseizing the engine. So what I did is made another really fantastic, well-reasoned decision, jumped on eBay, picked up another engine for this car, completely sight unseen, unknown age, unknown mileage, unknown condition, had it shipped to me, slaved for days putting her in the car, slaved for some more days just trying to work out how an engine with a carburetor even works, only to find out that this replacement engine also has a rather large problem. She's a smoker. So white smoke out the exhaust, that is got to be more than likely a dodgy head gasket. But before I go to all the effort of taking the cylinder head off, I do want to see if we can actually confirm that it's the head gasket. So what I've got here is a little head gasket tester tool and a thingamajig. This is just going to test to see if there's any carbon dioxide in the coolant. So you bung the radiator there, gas, if there is any, in because the head gasket's all should come up here, go through these tubes, turn that yellow. Okay, so I've got her started up and she is, oh wow, that's not good, leaking fuel like that. She's starting to smoke, but that's, wow, hang on. Oh. When she's running, that's not good. Why is that happening? Cool, that is really quite a lot of fuel coming out of the top of the float bolt there. What was causing that? That wasn't happening before. So there could be any number of reasons really why the float bowl is overfilling like that. The main culprits are going to be something like, there's either going to be dirt in the inlet, which is preventing the needle to actually close, for it to go back up and seat properly, so fuel just keeps pouring on through. There could be too much pressure being delivered into the float bowl, and sometimes you get that when you have a faulty fuel pump, or people will install aftermarket fuel pumps that just pump fuel through at a much higher rate, and so again the needle valve just doesn't close properly. And then the other thing is, as well, is that I've already had this off once. You might have seen it in the last video, and I may have just installed it incorrectly. There could be just all parts in, you know, sight, whack, and then, you know, just all over the place, just like that. But, you know, you can see me here, I'm just having a little bit of a fiddle around with it, a little bit of a play. And, you know, it looks like it's working. Right there, look, up and down, do. So the next thing to do actually here was to test to make sure that that float actually was floating. So I just pulled it apart real quick, shook it to see if I could hear any liquid in it, stuck it in a pint of water, and you can see quite clearly that it was actually floating, so no issues there. Cleaning out the inlet, making sure there's no dirt in there, so that's two of our issues that might be solved. And then all I did was I wanted to just see if I could restrict the pressure going into the float bowl a little bit, so I installed this inline filter in the most janky manner possible. It's gripped on to the ends there. The reason it hasn't gone all the way up to the end is because I'm using the wrong size hose. I've got some on its way that's actually the right size, a bit bigger. That should be all right just for now, just to start it. I'm not going anywhere. So let's try starting her again and seeing if this makes any difference. Okay, so she is idling. You can see this fuel filter is pulling in fuel. Oh no, look, it's going again. Why is it doing that? All right, bud, you might want to actually turn the engine off because that's fuel spilling out right next to the hot exhaust manifold. With a little bit of urgency, maybe. Oh, shock, it hasn't just fixed itself. Turn the engine off. Turn it off. Oh, that's so annoying. Why is the fuel bowl leaking? Why? And so clearly it doesn't look like the issue was with the float itself. There was no trapped dirt in the system because it's still, well, overflowing fuel everywhere, right? So now I'll go back to the idea I had before about maybe there being too much pressure in the system so that the needle can't close. And this is me having a little bit of a brainwave. Right, so all I've done here is I've just switched out the fuel hose there for a thicker, well, a larger diameter item. This is 8mm hose, and what was on there before was 4mm hose. I've just connected it back in there using the world's supply of Jubilee clips, because basically all I'm thinking is that maybe this fuel hose here, because it's a lot smaller, this is 4mm I think, it's just basically sending the fuel out of the fuel pump down there and then into the carb at a higher pressure. You know, it's like putting your thumb over, you know, a watering hose, isn't it? It shoots out quicker, and maybe that's what's causing the needle not to seat properly into the top of the float bowl. Spoiler alert, it wasn't that either. Okay, well this is a little bit embarrassing. I'm sure a couple of you caught it a minute ago. No? Didn't catch that? Okay, so you should be able to see in there that the needle valve thing, it is moving, but this is the needle that goes in here. I had this in there like that, so the pointy bit is basically attached to the float bowl, when in reality, if you think about it, this tapered bit surely should sit that way around so that when the float pushes on it, that actually seats properly into the top and stops fuel going into the bowl. Oh dear, it has to be that. It's all learning, I'll now never make that mistake again. So I'm hoping now we're just at the stage where we can at least just now get the engine to make some smoke out of the exhaust. And hopefully that's actually what's fixed the float bowl fuel leaking issue. Come on, please. Oh, yes. No fuel leaking. Oh, that's such a relief. Oh no, look, I haven't actually got my little tester in the thing, which is this whole point of where I started, wasn't it? There we go. In you go, little fella. Okay, so that smoke's getting worse, but this isn't turning yellow, which would indicate a broken, messed up head gasket. So I checked the oil for any signs of milkshake, which basically means that the oil is mixing with coolant, but there was nothing there. The coolant level itself wasn't dropping, and I checked the coolant for any signs of oil, but I couldn't see anything there either, yet the exhaust was still blowing smoke with a vengeance. There is one more thing that I would like to try before I go to all the effort of taking the cylinder head off, and that is thanks to Brian Whittington and Alex from work actually, who both mentioned to me that the master cylinder, which is down there, the master cylinder seals can go. They just split, and what that does is that it leaks brake fluid basically into, well, it goes past the seals into the servo and then into this hose here, which goes down into the carb inlet manifold there. Sucks brake fluid in, and then that's what can cause white smoke coming out of the exhaust. So I plugged the vacuum line that runs from the servo into the inlet manifold, and it's what creates the vacuum in the servo, and what do you know? No smoke. Oh, here it comes. I mean, it was still smoky, but I think we can all agree that that is way less smoke than where we began. I've had this running for 20 minutes, just like this. That is decidedly blue. You still can't see any coolant in the oil, but look, it's even dying down a little bit. So what does that mean then? Rings? The rings just need to come right back around? Is there a load of oil just hanging around in places it shouldn't? I thought that would have burnt off by now, but at this point, a new plan began to take root in my tiny little brain. Road trip time.
I've got a trade card as well.
Pounds for that one.
£3?
Yeah.
Oh, get in.
22.47 for you then, please.
Okay, so I'm back and it started absolutely hammering down, so I've erected the temporary workshop. So the first thing I picked up was some lead replacement. I can't imagine that this engine has ever been converted to run on modern fuel. I mean, I don't think it's going to make much difference for what I'm doing, but let's treat the old girl. And then I also picked up some stop smoke. That sounds handy for oil. So you just stick this in the oil. This is 100% going to fix our problem because marketing. Oh, and it is like the thickest of syrups. I didn't need a funnel for that, did I? It's not even coming out the funnel. Oh no. I would be here for days getting all that out. And the final thing that caught my eye on the shelf was this total cooling system leak repair. Stops all leaks in engine block, cylinder head, radiator and hoses. And you know this is 100% going to work because marketing. And that looks like milkshake to begin with, so that's cool. That's going to really help me diagnose whether I've got a head gasket problem. So I'm simply expecting this to cure all of my problems. Well, I mean, now the engine doesn't even start, so that's cool. What? Go on. Oh, that is not happy. And there was a lot of fuel just splashing on out of this. Okay, so I got it going. The fuel pump was dying on me again. So you have to just keep priming it with this thing just to get it going. So yeah, I mean, she's running. I can't believe it. I've been lied to. I've been completely lied to. Let's let it run for a little while and bring it back up to temperature and see what happens. None of that stuff seems to have worked particularly well, but this is way, way better than when I first turned her on. Let's just compare and contrast. This is obviously now, and this is when I first turned it on. You see, there's a massive difference. In fact, that's enough of a difference for me to just jam this down the lane for about a quarter of a mile. I think that's what we're going to aim to do. But before I even consider taking her to the end of the driveway, let alone a tiny bit down the lane, I haven't once checked to see what the brake situation is like. I daren't push the brake pedal. I mean, nothing good is going to come from pushing the brake pedal, and absolutely nothing good is going to have come from opening the brake reservoir either. Oh wow, what even is that? Looks like we've got a little pot that's just been storing Malden sea salt. Okay, so I've just filled this up a little bit with brake fluid, and this is the first time pressing the brake pedal, and it's just going to pop, isn't it? It's just going to pop, or it goes all the way to the floor. That pedal goes all the way. I'm getting zero pedal feel returning. It just goes all the way to the floor, and I can hear squelching, so I imagine there's just brake fluid pouring out somewhere. Okay, so things have progressed. I don't know, I'm having a bit of a run of luck here. So I thought that this wheel was probably just going to be completely seized with the nuts, but I just soaked them down a little bit with this stuff, which is the best stuff in the world. They came straight off with the wheel. Check this wheel out though. You can see this line here. You can see that that's where this car was just sat with a flat tyre for God only knows how long. And just check out some of the I mean, it's like the Grand Canyon in this tyre. I mean, well, look at the state of this. I sprayed the nipple down again with that stuff. This just undid really quite easily. It wasn't seized in the slightest. Pumped the brake pedal a few times and brake fluid shot out the end of the nipple. So, you know, a load of air came out. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be that easy. I still don't think we're going to have brakes. I've got this funny feeling that, you know, the master cylinder, which is down there, I mean, if the seals on that thing are still any good, or if the servo even does servo-y things, I don't know. I'm gonna have to come over here, see to the other side as well. I've just been letting that soak. I'm gonna see if I have the same luck over there. But also I thought you might like to see this. If you don't know much about Rover P6s, and I certainly didn't, but take a look at this suspension setup. So you've got a damper, the damper's there, and then you've got the upright here, and it's joined with this kind of like, I don't know what this assembly's called. I don't know what this style of suspension is. Bell crank, I think, maybe, potentially. But you can see this, it works on this kind of rocker arm there, so it hinges or pivots around that point. So this upright pushes that, pivots on here and pushes the spring in that way, and that's all connected up there to the bulkhead. It's really quite a cool system. And so the idea behind this is that when Rover were developing this car, they wanted to make sure that the engine bay was as wide as possible, because believe it or not, they had plans, and I think they even made a prototype of this car with a gas turbine engine. I mean, that's pretty mental. This was, you know, designed in the 60s, so yeah, they wanted to keep the engine bay just as wide as possible, so they tucked the suspension like that right away. And then of course, as many people know, they made a V8 version of this, so I'm sure the suspension came into play when they were designing the V8 as well. This is where we're at. The brake pedal is absolutely rock hard. I undid this bolt here, this nut here thing, bleed nipple, not bleed thing, you know, the what's it, this. Undid that, pressed the brake pedal, and fluid is clearly getting from the master cylinder down there. It's going through all the relevant pipes. It's going into the brake servo, and it was squirting out of there happily. To me, it's saying that I've got unrestricted flow right the way from here, down into the master cylinder, into the brake servo, out here, and then these lines here, they go down to the calipers. And when I undo the bleed nipple, I've got movement on the pedal, and this is with the engine on as well. The pedal's rock hard. As soon as I undo one of the bleed nipples on this side or that side, the pedal goes soft again, and brake fluid can come out. The calipers must be seized, and I mean, is that going to be any wonder really? Because look, they've been sat for as long as the car, which is 30 years. So I think I'm gonna have to pull them off and see what I can manage. But this really might scupper my plans for getting this car down the road a little bit. Oh, of course that was going to happen. What did I think What? How did I think that was going to go? Oh, I'm such a noob still. I don't know. Are you a noob or you're just a bit of a moron? What's the difference? I mean, this caliper is, yeah. I mean, I don't. It's seen better days. So what I've actually done is I've gone ahead and I managed to find on eBay a pair of replacement calipers. These are second hand. These set me back £60. So I think my plan of action now is to fit 2 new front calipers, and then hopefully that solves my issue. Also, while I'm down here, the good folks at Silverline gifted me some new tools. They're not sponsoring this video or anything. They just sent me these tools completely for free. It was very kind of them, so thank you guys. Just some more bits and bobs, water pump pliers, hose clip things, all manner of digital verniers. But the things that I'm most excited about is I've got this punch and chisel set. So it means that I can stop. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm still at that stage in my journey where I'm using screwdrivers as chisels, as pry bars. I'm sure some of you home mechanics know what I'm talking about. And also some Imperial combination spanners, some extra ones. Okay, so it's yet another week later from that clip you just saw. Some of you Rover fans probably clocked this immediately, but these new calipers that I bought, or these second-hand calipers that I bought, clearly are not the correct items. So put that there, you put that there. I mean, spin it round. They are 2 very, very different calipers. I think they were listed wrong on eBay. I didn't check the photos well enough. But anyway, what I have done is I've bought some actual new calipers that are the correct items. Now these things, I imagine, are just pure Chinesium. So I needed something quickly, so I picked up these. They're £130. I am going to get 2 of them fitted straight to the car now. And I'm just absolutely desperate to get this car just on the road just a little bit, just boop, 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 down the lane there like that. So I set about fitting these replacement brake calipers, which meant that I had to make 2 new sets of copper brake lines because the other ones basically just sheared completely off due to the condition of them. They were just rusty as hell. Now I can tell you right now that this process is much, much easier to do if you've got a bench vise rather than actually trying to do it with a combination of resting it on a wallpaper table and suspending it in mid-air. But you know, us home mechanics, we have to make do with what we've got. And if from this footage it looks as though I'm using all of the old hardware off of the original calipers, as well as the actual original asbestos brake pads in these new calipers, you'd be absolutely correct. I have already lashed out way more money than I care to admit on this car, and as I'm not made of money, we're gonna make do. Do they not look like the most out of place things you've ever seen in your entire life? But they're on. New brake line in there, and another one on there. Again, a new brake line because the other one just sheared off when I removed the old one. The what's it jig is the reservoir is full of brake fluid. I have cracked both of the nipples, bled the brakes, and I am very pleased to report that we have some brake pedal. Get in. And this means now that I reckon we can get the car down on the floor with the wheels back on, obviously, and the very minimum test to see if this car has got anything in the way of a transmission, and if so, shall we try going forwards? And so here we've got the fuel system set up. So you've got the pump down there, the mechanical fuel pump there, and then running out the back, and then running, and then running out of the back. Running out the back, you've got the hose there, so the fuel line runs along there. I've zip tied that to the wiper motor, so you know, rain, wipers, zip tie, fuel line. Great shout, I feel. I've really done myself, you know, justice there, my ingenuity. It runs along here, cable tied to the bonnet hinge there, runs in through the window there and into my fuel tank. And I've left the fuel prime thing on here because the fuel pump, the mechanical fuel pump down here in the engine is very weak, and kind of every minute or so you actually have to reprime it as the engine's running. Just definitely not ropey. And obviously I'm doing that with the fuel system because this car has been sat for 30 years. There can be no way whatsoever that the fuel tank is any good, and there's probably all sorts of rust and gunk and old fuel in the fuel tank. I'm not pumping that in through the system. I could just be doing without that kind of negativity in my life, to be honest with you. Now is the time to finally see if I can get the car to move just a few inches backwards and forwards under her own steam. I feel like this old girl's come so far from when I first bought her. She had a completely seized engine, don't forget. But it all kind of hinges on this moment. So you can imagine my complete dismay when it seemed as though the car simply wouldn't move. It felt as though the automatic gearbox was engaging, but she wouldn't move. It quickly became apparent, however, that the brakes were stuck on. Right, so I've been doing a little bit of research, and so what I've done here is I've actually unplugged this this vacuum line from the back of the servo here, the brake servo. This goes down there and then into the manifold, and this is what provides the vacuum for the brake servo to work. Now you can see that with this bag wrapped around it, that's pulling vacuum. So I know that the valve down there and at this line are all good, they haven't collapsed. And now I've unplugged that, the brake pedal is back. So I've actually got a working brake pedal once more. Oh, and another thing as well is now I've unplugged that. Look at this. That's almost non-existent. That is an almost non-existent amount of smoke. So I think what we've got going on here, it's becoming really quite obvious that this brake servo is faulty. I mean, look at it. We know how long it's been sitting. I keep saying it, 30 years. So I think all of the seals, or all of them, or some of the seals in the brake servo have all perished. And what's happening is brake fluid is getting sucked down into this vacuum line, into the engine, and is burning off. And this fills me with hope and also a lot of dread because a reconditioned brake servo is about £1 trillion. It's not £1 trillion, but it's just more money than I'd actually want to spend. But now I am just wondering if I can just drive this car just a little bit without the brake servo attached like that. I don't suppose I can I? Or maybe I can. I don't know. Were the brakes actually locked on? Shall I see if we can drive it again now? If we go into, I've got the fuel can now is on the thing, so be very careful with it. Oh, wow! Wow! We have got, we've got a gearbox. Let's go backwards. We're moving. Woo! Woo! Let's go forwards. Oh wow, yes. She won't go into park. Okay, neutral, yes. Okay, so I'm just connecting my fuel tank. Definitely safe. Let's take the old girl for her maiden voyage. I mean, I've got no bonnet on the car, but can't see that that's much of an issue. Okay, we're pulling fuel. We've got some horrible noises, but let's see if we can just go forward a bit, shall we? Oh, here we go. She drives. Check this out. Oh, yes. Woo! Oh, she's ropey. Look at this. I'm not moving. There's no, oh no, there's no brakes really. Okay, let's go backwards, shall we? If only I could see anything. I topped up the ATF as well because I took this torque converter off in the previous video, and so I just want to make sure that she was properly full up. I can't see anything. Right, drive. No, a second. No, just drive, regular drive. Driving along in my automobile. My fuel can beside me. I'm at the wheel. That's not the words, but there's Claudia. Do you remember Claudia? It's my daily driver. I genuinely drive her every single day. Farmer's track just here. I think we're best off just going down there. Oh, we're going backwards. No. Okay, D for drive. Here we go. And we're off. Is it going to shift? Oh, second gear. Oh, this is amazing. Don't go too fast though, not with these brakes. Oh, yes. Okay, got no brakes. Not really. Let's pull her in. Let's just pull her straight in. Smoking. Let's turn her around. If I can get her into reverse. There's a car coming. Yep. Oh, drive. No. Second. Get to drive, you pig. Alright. Reverse. 79-point turn. Incoming. Oh. Okay. Yep. Oh, this gearbox. Okay. Drive. Yes. No. Oh no. Oh. Oh. Well, we had no drive, then we had drive. Now we've got drive again. No drive. Okay. She is very floaty, making all sorts of noises. This is so much fun though. Okay, brake. Brake. No brakes again. No brakes again. Brake. 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 Car behind me. Yes. We're home. Oh, it was so stressful. Well done, old girl. Well done, old girl. I'm properly chuffed at that. You know, for someone who doesn't really have any idea about what they're doing, absolutely no clue on anything about classic cars, you know, I've bought this, I'll go back to life, driven it down the road, I'm quite pleased with that. And so just before filming all of this, I actually just bought the next project car for this channel on eBay. Now I can't tell you what it is, but I can give you a hint. It has a twin turbo V8 engine in it. So if you want to see that car, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you want to see part 1 of this Rover series, then simply click this video here.